Every world hides its secrets, and some beings belong to more than one. I am born of two worlds where science meets spirituality and reality collides with imagination. Welcome to the space between worlds. The night sky of planet Veyron 9 was quiet. Stars shined like cold fire and a pale moon floated over the deep jungle. Inside a small human camp, Ethan, a young engineer, sat near the signal tower trying to fix a broken transmitter. He had been alone for 3 months since his ship crashed. Every night he sent a call for help, but no one ever answered. Until tonight. A strange sound broke through the static. It wasn't human. A deep growl mixed with a cry of pain echoed through the receiver. The sound was alive. It was a call not for him but for help. Ethan froze. "What was that?" he whispered. The voice came again, softer, weaker, a desperate cry. He turned the dials, tracking the source. The signal came from deep inside the Mirkwood Valley, a place known for deadly creatures and thick, glowing fog. He knew he shouldn't go there. No human had ever returned from the valley, but the sound, it didn't feel like a trap. It felt sad, like someone dying alone. Ethan grabbed his flashlight and plasma pistol. Just a quick look, he told himself, though his hands were shaking. If it's a person, they need help. The forest was silent as he entered. The air shimmered with blue dust from the glowing vines. Every step made the ground hum softly, like the world was breathing beneath his feet. Strange eyes watched him from the dark, but nothing moved. Then he saw it. A massive creature lay between the trees, a dragon, its scales shining like blue metal under moonlight. Its wings were torn, blood dripping from deep wounds. Next to it, 2 small creatures, baby dragons, cried softly, pressing against their mother's side. Ethan's heart raced. He had seen pictures of these beings in the archives, Zareth dragons, one of the oldest alien species, known for their intelligence and power. But no human had ever seen one alive. He took a step forward. The mother dragon lifted her head weakly, her eyes glowing a sharp silver blue. She growled, but the sound was weak, broken by pain. "I won't hurt you," Ethan said quietly. "I heard your signal, you called for help." The dragon blinked slowly, her breath uneven. Ethan saw a metal shard stuck in her side from a human weapon. His chest tightened. Someone had attacked her. He dropped his pistol and raised his hands. "Let me help you." The dragon's eyes narrowed. Then slowly she lowered her head as if giving permission. Ethan worked fast. He used his tools to pull out the metal and sealed the wound with a plasma patch. The smell of burnt metal and blood filled the air, but the bleeding stopped. The mother dragon let out a deep sigh, her body relaxing. One of the small dragons, no bigger than a dog, crawled toward Ethan and sniffed his hand. Its scales were soft, glowing faintly. "Hey there, little one," he whispered, smiling. "You're safe now." Suddenly the ground shook. From the shadows, red lights appeared, scanning beams. Ethan turned and saw drones moving through the forest, human-made drones armed with plasma rifles. "Oh no," he whispered. "They're hunting her." The mother dragon tried to lift her head, growling weakly, but she couldn't move fast enough. Ethan ran to his bag and pulled out an EMP grenade. "Stay down," he said. He threw the grenade, and with a flash of blue light, the drones fell from the sky, smoking, but the sound had already drawn attention. In the distance, heavy footsteps echoed, soldiers. Ethan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "They're coming," he said to the dragon. "They won't stop until you're dead." The dragon looked at him, her silver blue eyes glowing with something deep understanding. She spoke, her voice echoing in his mind rather than his ears. "Human, why help me?" Ethan froze. Her voice was calm but filled with pain. I don't know," he answered honestly. "Maybe because no one else will." The dragon's gaze softened. "My name is Sarathra. My children are too weak to fly. Help us escape and we will not forget you." Ethan nodded without hesitation. "I'll get you out, I promise." He quickly attached plasma boosters to a hover sled and used it to lift the wounded dragon. The cubs climbed on, pressing close to their mother. As they moved through the forest, the sound of soldiers grew closer. Laser beams cut through the trees behind them. Ethan ducked, guiding the sled through narrow paths. One beam hit his shoulder, burning his suit, but he kept moving. "Just a little farther," he shouted. Finally, they reached a cliff overlooking the glowing valley. Below, a river of light flowed, liquid energy. "If we jump," he said, "the current will take us far away." Sarathra looked at him, her eyes reflecting both fear and trust. "Then we jumped together." Ethan smiled weakly. "Let's hope this works." He pushed the sled off the edge. For a moment they fell through the glowing mist, the light wrapping around them like a wave. Then silence. When Ethan opened his eyes, they were on a soft riverbank far from the battle. The mother dragon was still alive, breathing weakly. The cubs nuzzled him, chirping softly. He laughed, exhausted. "We made it." Sarathra opened her eyes and looked at him. "You saved my children, human. From now on, they are yours to guide." Ethan blinked. "Mine? What do you mean?" The cubs curled beside him, their scales glowing softly. "They see you as their protector, their master." Ethan stared at the small dragons, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. He didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of something far greater, a bond that would change the fate of two worlds. The morning sun rose slowly over the misty valley. Blue light reflected from the dragon's scales, painting the rocks in soft glow. Ethan sat beside the injured dragon, Sarathra, watching her shallow breathing. The two small cubs were curled up close to her, their tiny bodies warm against her cold skin. Ethan had spent the whole night checking her wounds, cleaning the blood and trying to keep her alive. He was tired, hungry, and his arms still burned from the laser wound. But every time he thought about resting, he remembered the words echoing in his mind. "They are yours to guide." He didn't know what that meant, not yet. The cubs woke first. They stretched and looked around curiously, their bright blue eyes glowing in the morning light. One of them sniffed Ethan's boot and made a low chirping sound, almost like a purr. "Hey there," Ethan said softly. "Looks like you two are feeling better." The second cub crawled closer and rubbed its head against his leg. He smiled nervously. "Guess that means you like me." Then he heard a voice inside his head, small, curious, and warm. "Like friend." Ethan froze. He looked at the cubs. Wait, was that friend? Both cubs said it again in perfect unison inside his mind. Ethan sat back, shocked. "You can talk?" he asked, though his voice shook. "Not talk, feel," one of them replied. "We feel your heart. You helped Mother." Ethan blinked, trying to understand. The dragons weren't just intelligent, they could link minds, share emotions, maybe even thoughts. It was more than communication, it was connection. Suddenly, Sarathra stirred. Her massive eye opened slowly, fixing on Ethan. "They accept you, human. Their bond is true." Ethan bowed his head slightly. "I didn't mean to, I just wanted to help." "You saved what was mine," Sarathra said, her voice echoing deep and powerful. "And in return, I give you what is theirs, trust." Ethan swallowed. "Trust from dragons, that's something I never thought I'd earn." "Trust is not earned, it is felt," Sarathra replied. "But now danger follows. The hunters will not stop. They smell my blood." Ethan's heart dropped. "Then we have to move." They began their journey north through the dense forest. Ethan walked beside the cubs while Sarathra moved slowly behind them, still weak but determined. The cubs ran ahead, their laughter echoing through the trees, a strange mix of growls and joyful chirps. For the first time since his crash, Ethan didn't feel alone, but the peace didn't last. By midday, the sky darkened. A low hum rolled through the air. Ethan looked up and saw small black dots flying above scout drones. They were scanning the forest. "Down," he hissed, pulling the cubs behind a fallen tree. The drones hovered, their red eyes flashing as they searched. One beam passed over Sarathra's tail and stopped. "Run!" Ethan shouted. The forest exploded with gunfire. Plasma shots burned through leaves and bark. Sarathra roared in pain but fought to move faster. Ethan fired back with his pistol, hitting one drone, but there were too many. "Go!" he yelled. "Get to the river." The cubs ran ahead, leaping through the glowing vines. Ethan turned and saw the soldiers, armored figures emerging from the fog, weapons raised. He recognized the insignia on their suits. Terran Mining Corps, the same group that had shot down his ship, his former employers. Target located. One of them shouted, "Capture the human alive, kill the creature." Ethan's blood boiled over my dead body. He fired again, covering Sarathra as she reached the riverbank. The cubs were already across, calling for her, but she was too weak to fly and the soldiers were closing in. Without thinking, Ethan ran toward her, jumped onto her side and shouted, "I'll help you." He triggered his suit's booster pack, using its remaining energy to lift Sarathra's wings. The current caught them, dragging the dragon and Ethan across the glowing river as plasma blasts burned the air behind them. They crashed on the far bank, gasping. Ethan rolled over, coughing up water. The cubs rushed to him, chirping in worry. "I'm fine," he said, sitting up. His body hurt everywhere, but he was alive. He looked at Sarathra. She was bleeding again, breathing hard. "Stay awake," he told her. "I'll find something to help." She looked at him, her voice weak but steady. "You are not like the others. You fight beside us, not against." Ethan shook his head. "I'm human, but I'm not them." The cubs pressed against him, one resting its head on his lap. He smiled, though his heart was heavy. "We'll survive, all of us, I promise." Above them, dark shapes moved in the sky, the enemy's ship spreading across the horizon. Sarathra's eyes glowed faintly. "Then it begins, the bond between man and dragon. The storm is coming." Ethan looked at the cubs and then at the sky. "Then let it come," he said softly. "We'll face it together." That night, as they hid inside an ancient cave, Ethan sat beside the sleeping cubs. The faint blue glow from their scales lit the stone walls, revealing carvings, symbols of dragons and humans standing side by side. He touched the carvings, whispering, "Maybe this isn't the first time our worlds have met." A gentle voice answered inside his mind, not from Sarathra, but from the cubs. "We dreamed of you before you came. You were chosen." Ethan froze. Chosen by who? But there was no answer, only silence and the faint heartbeat of the dragons beside him. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. The storm had arrived. The storm raged all night. Rain fell like silver knives through the forest, hissing on the glowing leaves. Ethan sat near the cave entrance, watching flashes of lightning crawl across the sky. Every sound outside made him grip his pistol tighter. Behind him, the two cubs slept beside their mother, Sarathra. Her breathing was rough, her wounds still burned. Ethan had done all he could, but without real medicine she was getting weaker. He could feel her pain echoing faintly inside his mind, the bond growing stronger with every passing hour. He whispered, "Hold on, Sarathra, please." "You worry too much, human," her voice rumbled softly in his head. "I have survived worse. But the storm hides more than rain." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "They are close." Outside, beyond the thunder, faint red glows moved between the trees' scanners. The soldiers had found their trail. Ethan crawled back toward the cubs. "We have to move again." The smallest cub stirred. "Mother, tired." "I know," Ethan said gently, "but if we stay, they'll find us. We can't fight them here." Sarathra opened one heavy eye. "There is a pass behind the waterfall, old tunnels from when dragons ruled this world, safe if we can reach it." Ethan nodded. "Then we move now." He packed his gear, loaded his blaster, and helped the cubs wake. The rain hid their movements as they slipped through the dripping vines. Sarathra limped behind, wings dragging through the mud, every step a battle. They reached the waterfall, a towering wall of blue mist. The roar of the water drowned all other sound. Ethan turned back once more. Through the trees he saw the red lights growing brighter. "Go!" he shouted. Into the fall, they pushed through the rushing water and into darkness. The tunnel behind was cold and ancient, carved from black stone with faint glowing symbols along the walls, dragon runes pulsing faintly as they passed. Ethan looked around in awe. "Did your kind build this?" "Long before humans came," Sarathra answered, "before the stars had names." The cubs padded forward, their light illuminating broken murals, dragons flying beside strange humanoid figures. Ethan touched one of the carvings. Humans and dragons together. Yes, Sarathra said slowly. Once, we shared this world, then greed burned it apart. They moved deeper into the tunnel until the sound of the waterfall faded. Ethan felt the ground tremble again, too rhythmic to be thunder. Then he saw it, a motion sensor blinking faintly on the wall. Oh no, he breathed. It's a trap, too late. A red beam swept across the tunnel, followed by a metallic click. The floor opened beneath them. Ethan grabbed one cub's tail, but gravity won. They fell through a narrow shaft, landing hard in a steel cage below. Alarms screamed. "Welcome back, Engineer Ethan Cross," said a cold voice above. He looked up. A man in a black exosuit stepped forward, Commander Rhett Kane, head of Terran Mining Corps Security. Ethan's former captain. His helmet visor reflected the dragon's glow. Ethan spat. "You tried to kill me, now you're hunting them too." Kane smirked. "They're not innocent, boy. Those beasts guard the richest energy veins on this planet. We're not here to kill, we're here to mine. If they die in the process, that's business." "They are intelligent," Ethan shouted. "They can talk, feel." "Then maybe they'll understand a deal," Kane interrupted. "You help us find their nesting grounds and I'll let you live." Ethan clenched his fists. "Never." Kane turned to the soldiers. "Fine, bring the mother in." Two heavy doors opened and soldiers dragged Sarathra forward, bound in energy chains. She roared, but the electric current silenced her voice. The cubs cried out, their minds screaming in pain. Ethan's head filled with their fear, too strong to block out. Something inside him snapped. The lights flickered. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. The ground vibrated with energy that wasn't his own. "Ethan," Sarathra's voice boomed inside his skull. "The bond is awakening. Use it." He didn't understand, but instinct took over. He reached toward the cage wall, focusing on the energy around him. The dragon's light pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, blue arc spreading through the metal bars. Then the cage exploded. Flames and sparks filled the chamber. Soldiers shouted, blinded by the light. Ethan fell to the ground, gasping. The cubs were free, their eyes blazing like twin suns. "Run!" he yelled. Sarathra broke her chains with a deafening roar. Her body glowed as if burning from within. She swiped once, sending soldiers flying. Kane raised his weapon, but Ethan shot first, the blast tearing through his commander's visor. They escaped through a maintenance tunnel, smoke following them. Ethan's hands trembled, the air around him still hummed with strange power. What was that?" he whispered. "The bond," Sarathra answered weakly. "You are linked to us now, heart and mind. When one feels danger, all respond." Ethan stared at his glowing palm. "Then we're connected truly." "Yes," she said, "and that connection will either save our worlds or destroy them both." They reached the surface again as dawn broke. The forest burned in the distance, the Terran ships were regrouping. Ethan turned toward the mountains. "We keep moving, we find this nesting ground you spoke of." Sarathra nodded. "There lies our last hope, the heart of Zaereth." Ethan glanced at the cubs beside him. "Then let's make sure it keeps beating." They walked into the rising sun, human and dragons, bound by something ancient and powerful, while, far behind, Commander Kane's broken helmet flickered to life again. A red recording light blinked. "Subject Ethan Cross, alive. Bond established. Phase 2 begins." The mountains of Veyron 9 rose like black teeth against the red dawn. Clouds swirled around their sharp peaks, and the air shimmered with thin blue lightning. Ethan walked beside Sarathra and her two cubs, climbing a narrow path carved into the stone. Every step echoed through the valley below, a world that seemed alive, watching. They had been walking for 2 days with almost no food. The cubs were tired, and Sarathra's wound still glowed faintly, but something stronger than pain was pulling her forward. "We are close," she said in his mind, her voice filled with reverence. "The heart calls to us." Ethan wiped sweat from his face. "This heart, what exactly is it?" Sarathra's silver eyes turned toward him. The source of our life. It connects all Zareth dragons. It was once a gift from your kind before the war. Ethan stopped. My kind, humans built it. Yes, Sarathra whispered. When humans and dragons shared trust, they forged the heart to bind energy and soul together. But humans turned against us. They wanted the power for themselves, so we sealed it. Ethan stared at her in disbelief. So the Terran core, they're trying to find it again. And if they do, she said darkly, they will drain it and this planet will die. As they reached the mountain's crest, Ethan saw something incredible. A vast circular crater lay ahead, filled with glowing water, a lake of light. In its center stood a massive crystal floating above the surface, pulsing with slow, heartbeat-like waves of energy. The heart of Zareth, Ethan breathed. It's beautiful. The cubs ran forward, their scales lighting up brighter as they neared the water. Sarathra stepped closer too, bowing her head. It welcomes you, human, she said softly. You carry the bond. You are part of it now. Ethan looked down at his hand. The faint blue light that had appeared when he broke the cage was glowing again, stronger, alive. He knelt by the edge and touched the luminous water. Instantly, his mind filled with visions, ancient cities floating in the sky, dragons flying beside humans, laughter, peace, and then fire, betrayal, war. He pulled back, gasping. I saw it, everything. We were allies once. Yes, Sarathra said sadly, until fear poisoned your hearts. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Ethan looked up. Clouds were splitting above them. From the sky descended 3 dark ships, their engines screaming through the storm. Terran insignias shone on their hulls. They found us, Ethan muttered. No, Sarathra growled. They followed you. Ethan's chest tightened. No, Kane's recording device. He must have tracked my signal. Gunfire rained down. Plasma bolts struck the mountain, throwing shards of rock in every direction. Sarathra spread her wings, shielding the cubs as Ethan fired back. The glowing lake rippled violently under the explosions. Ethan, shouted a familiar voice through the loudspeaker. Commander Kane, stand down, you don't understand what that thing is. It's a reactor, not a relic. We can use it to power entire colonies. Ethan yelled back, you'll destroy this world. Sacrifices must be made. Kane replied coldly. A blast hit Sarathra's shoulder. She roared in pain, collapsing near the edge. The cubs screamed. Ethan ran to her side. Stay with me. Her voice in his mind was weak. Protect them, protect the heart. Ethan looked at the glowing crystal. The air around it vibrated, humming like a song. He could feel it calling to him again, like it knew his name. Then he heard the cubs' voices together. Ethan, the heart knows you. It remembers you. He turned, shocked. Remembers me? How? Because you were one of them, they said. One of the creators. The words hit him like thunder. That's impossible, I'm just... Before he could finish, blue light wrapped around his body. His memories flickered, brief flashes of another life. He saw his own face in ancient times, working beside dragons, building the heart with hands glowing just like now. He stumbled back, shaking. I was reborn, my soul came back. Kane's soldiers landed on the mountain. Take the heart, he ordered. Ethan stood between them and the lake. You'll have to kill me first. Gladly, Kane said, raising his plasma rifle, but before he could fire, the cubs leapt forward, their bodies surrounded by light. The energy from the heart flowed through them, then through Ethan. A beam of blue fire shot from the ground, knocking the soldiers back. Ethan felt the world fade. The heart's voice filled his mind, calm, powerful, ancient. Guardian reborn. The bond is complete. Energy surged through him, his wounds vanished, and his eyes glowed like starlight. Sarathra lifted her head, her strength returning as the heart pulsed faster. Ethan, she said, you are one with us now. He nodded slowly. Then let's finish this. He raised his hand. The heart responded, sending waves of light outward. The mountain shook as blue fire spread like veins through the rock. The Terran ships tried to flee, but the energy seized them, crushing metal into ash. Kane screamed, you can't stop progress. Ethan stared up, his voice steady. This isn't progress, it's extinction. The ships exploded in a storm of light. Then silence, only the wind and the steady glow of the heart. Ethan collapsed to his knees, exhausted. Sarathra moved beside him, resting her head near his shoulder. "You have done what no human has done for ages," she said softly. "You remembered who you were." He looked at the cubs, their eyes full of trust. "What happens now?" "Now," Sarathra said, "you lead us into a new dawn. The war is not over, but the balance has returned." Ethan gazed at the heart, its light reflecting in his eyes. For the first time he felt truly whole, part man, part something greater. Above, the storm clouds began to break, revealing a new sunrise, bright, endless, and alive. The mountains shook as the first roar split the clouds. 5 awakened dragons rose into the storm, their wings cutting through lightning. Their scales burned like suns, gold, crimson, silver, and blue. Beneath them, Ethan stood on a cliff with Sarathra and the 2 cubs, watching the sky blaze with fire and metal. Far above, the iron wyvern floated in the clouds, a steel monster powered by dragon blood, its red eyes glowing like twin stars of hate. Behind it, dozens of Terran warships moved in formation, their engines humming with death. Sarathra's voice filled Ethan's mind. This is the end they wanted, fire against steel. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we'll give them more than they expect. The first clash, the iron wyvern opened its jaws and released a beam of red plasma. It struck the nearest guardian dragon, the golden one, sending it crashing through the clouds. But the guardian recovered, roaring in rage, flames spilling from its mouth like rivers of light. Ethan's heartbeat echoed in his head. The bond pulsed again, stronger than ever. He could feel every dragon's emotion, fear, anger, courage. They felt him too. "Elyar," Sarathra whispered, using his old name. "Your mind is the key, guide them." He closed his eyes and reached out with his thoughts. Suddenly, the world exploded into color. He wasn't standing on the cliff anymore, he was flying, seeing through their eyes. Wind tore past his wings. His mind became one with theirs. "Together," he said in his heart, the dragons moved as one. Fire met metal. The sky became a battlefield of light. Inside the machine on board the Iron Wyvern, Commander Kane watched the chaos through cracked glass. His cybernetic arm sparked, his face half burned from their last fight. "He thinks he's special," Kane muttered, "but I'll show him what humanity really is." He turned to his crew. "Charge the core, we'll burn the heart itself." "Sir, that will overload." "Do it." The Iron Wyvern's chest split open, revealing a massive red crystal pulsing with stolen dragon energy. The same kind of power Ethan carried, but twisted. The storm of souls back outside, Ethan felt the surge, dark, wrong. "He's using corrupted energy," he said through gritted teeth. "Then purify it," Sarathra urged. "You are the heart's vessel, remember who you are." Ethan raised his hands. Blue fire spread from his palms into the air, connecting to the dragons. Streams of light linked them together, weaving a giant glowing symbol across the clouds, the mark of unity that once bound dragons and humans long ago. "Now," Ethan shouted, the dragons unleashed their power. Lightning, fire, ice, and pure energy blasted toward the Iron Wyvern. The machine countered, releasing its red beam again. The 2 forces collided in the sky, shaking the world below. The clash was blinding. Ethan screamed as the energy tore through him. He could feel both sides, creation and destruction, fighting inside his chest. Then from deep within, another voice spoke, older, echoing like 1,000 stars. "You are not just one soul, you are the bridge." Ethan's body blazed with blue flame. He rose into the air, no longer just human. Wings of light unfurled behind him, wings shaped like a dragon's. The fall of the Iron Wyvern. Kane's eyes widened as Ethan appeared outside the cockpit, floating in the storm. "You're not possible." Ethan's voice was calm, almost sorrowful. "Neither is what you became." He pressed his glowing hand to the ship's hull. Blue light spread across the metal, crawling like veins. The machine screamed, its circuits melting under the purity of the heart's energy. Kane tried to fire, but the controls burned away. The red crystal inside the ship began to crack, energy spilling out like molten blood. "You can't stop progress," Kane shouted one last time. Ethan looked into his eyes. "Progress without heart is destruction." The Iron Wyvern exploded. A wave of light swept across the sky. The Terran ships shattered, their engines silent. For a moment, the entire mountain range glowed like daylight. Then the storm ended. Aftermath rain began to fall, soft, clean, peaceful. The dragons circled above, their roars now cries of victory, not pain. Ethan landed beside Sarathra, his energy fading. The cubs ran to him, chirping joyfully. He smiled weakly. "It's over." Sarathra lowered her head to him. "No, it has only begun. The heart lives, and so does hope." Ethan looked up at the clearing sky. Beyond the clouds, he could see faint lights of Terran colonies orbiting the planet. Humanity was still out there. They would come again, but this time he wouldn't run. He placed his hand on Sarathra's neck. "Then we'll be ready, together." The dragons raised their wings. The light of dawn broke through the clouds, painting them gold. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to become part of this story. This is born of two worlds where reality ends and imagination begins.